Welcome to the Roush Performance Esports channel and coverage of the RPE Sunset at Sebring race. March and Sebring are always a hot topic when it comes to road racing, but here on this channel, we like to step out of the box slightly as well. And instead of the normal Sebring endurance racing that we've had the last couple weeks, tonight will be fast and furious with a pair of sprint races in GTP-only cars. I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth tonight is Jack Roush Jr. We've also got Eddie Smith behind the scenes as our producer. And Jack, this is the first event for RPE in 2026. What a great way to piggyback with the iRacing special event schedule and pair up the GTPs at an amazing racetrack that we've got here in North America.
Oh yeah, Joey, I gotta say I'm pretty excited. It's been a while since we've run one of these, and what a time and place to start it. Sebring Raceway. It's one of my favorite tracks. You know, I try not to play favorite. I like them all that we have raced on. But Sebring, you know, we just came off of the 12-hour race there with IMSA, and it's an exciting track. It's you know, very treacherous with its bumps. It's hard to master too, and we're gonna have a great show tonight.
It is one of those racetracks that you either love it or you hate it, but for the most part, everybody loves it. And let's take a look at the track map. I was here just a couple weeks ago with some Sprint Challenge racing and more Ford Mustang Cup, and 17 turns, just a tick over 3.5 miles, about 3.74 miles out here, and a couple highlighted areas that we really want to pay attention to. It's going to be turn number 1, turn number 3, turn number 7, which is the hairpin at the far left side of the racetrack, and then always this back straightaway, the Ullman straightaway, leading to our U-turn at the very final turn number 17. That's Sunset Bend down there. You talk about iconic corners in these racetracks around the globe, Jack. I think we can talk about the corkscrew, right? Maybe the kink at Road America. Well, Sebring, it's about turn 17, and that's Sunset Bend.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't need to tell you this, Joey, but it's a very tricky corner. It's hard to know where you are going into it, and even through the exit where you think you can see the way out, there's bumps there that you really can't see. You got to feel your way around lap after lap and figure out the fast way around.
I've always thought that you need to attack Sebring racetrack no matter what corner, what sector you're on. You're always needing to attack every single corner on this place in order to essentially make up the lap time. Now, I mentioned we are using the GTP cars out here. We've got 5 of them available to us. It's going to be the Acura, the BMW, the Cadillac, the Ferrari, and the Porsche. Now, they are all using a fixed setup out here, so it's not that these drivers are putting in a ton of practice, really fine-tuning their setups. Everybody's on the fixed stuff, and you see up here nearly 700 horsepower. They have those sequential transmissions. Jack, these things have tons of aerodynamic add-ons to them. I think the big news, though, and same thing here in 2026 in the real world with the addition of the new Michelin tire, they've got that new tire model here in iRacing. A lot of the drivers have said it's a little bit tricky on the first couple laps gaining that tire temperature, which is very true to real life.
Yeah, I'm just look at the specs of these cars, the power, the lightweight, the downforce, plus also, like you said, they can be very treacherous. You know, I think part of that is the lack of anti-lock brakes, right?
Correct. They do not run the ABS system, so it's a mechanical front with an electronic rear, and that's where it can really be sort of tricky, is with these hybrid systems that these cars produce, is that the electronic rear brakes, they can be a little bit finicky, at least in terms of the driver feel from what they're typically used to out there. I know that it's thrown a few of the drivers for a little bit of a loop trying to understand what these cars are really capable of, but we've got some qualifying action out there on the racetrack right now. Colin Arnold, that was a name that we had mentioned pre-show, Jack. Great to see the Arnold family out here. I see Colin is actually up in 3rd currently.
Yeah, I was a little surprised and really happy to see his name not only here but right at the top. He's doing really well. It's going to be exciting to see him race tonight.
And of course, Colin races with his dad, Zach, who I know better than Colin. Zach was always a crucial member of our Roush Performance road racing team. But Zach and Colin do a bunch of road racing together as a father-son duo, and I'm sure that Colin is actually probably showing his dad how to go fast now versus the other way around. Look at him go here in qualifying. I had mentioned currently sitting in third, and he just stole away the top spot. How about that for timing? 4/1000ths of a second, the number 20 goes to pole.
Wow, this is really competitive out here.
It, yes, I mean, look at our timing tower here on the left side of the screen. So Collins, our pole sitter here with a 149, or I'm sorry, a 146.9. 4/1000ths of a second back is Hector Collazo there in the number 2 car. And then Ryan Ellis is only 3/100ths of a second off of pole. So we've got 3 cars only split up by 4/100ths of a second, call it. Right on board here. This is Jeff here in the number 29 car. Going to be trying to put down a little bit of a late qualifying. Now, they did have 10 minutes out here. It is a solo session. It is not an open session, so the drivers are not on the track with each other, which means when that 1 minute 20 clock runs out that's on the top left of the screen, that is it. They do not continue on to be able to complete their lap. So unfortunately for Jeff, this is going to be his only time lap, and just kind of judging by his race history and whatnot, I expect him to kind of move up the order a little bit. I see about 30 entries out here, Jack. Always great to see the RPE stuff continue to grow. You know, road racing is kind of our bread and butter with Roush Performance and that whole GT4 program way back when we were still running it. So really good to see the road racing here on the channel as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is really cool. You know, another thing I'm kind of excited about, I don't think we've even done a race at sunset before. You know, looking at the visuals here, you know, it's super realistic. You know, not only is it pretty, but also, you know, it can create, you know, some challenges hitting your marks as the light is constantly changing. And don't forget as well that at a time like this, at this time of day, the track can change very quickly. And I'm sure, you know, we're going to see that here play a factor.
I'm happy you brought it up because that sun was already getting pretty low. The reflections off the racetrack can be very brutal here at Sebring, and especially into Sunset Bend. When you're driving on the back straightaway towards turn number 17, it is in your eyes. Well, we've got our official starting grid for the first race. We've got a pair of races here that are going to be 14 laps, and Colin Arnold is your pole sitter in the number 20 machine. Hector Collazo is going to roll off in second place with Alex Ellis in third. James Thurston in fourth with David Schmidt rolling off in fifth. Jimmy Carroll going to share that row with him, starting in the sixth place position with Christian Youngwall back here in seventh. Sam Sereno starting in 8th with Charles Hosey in 9th. Edwin Onifree in 10th. And Jack, I believe you've got 11th through 20th.
11th is Sean Fritz. Jake Van Hees is in 12th. In 13th, an old familiar name, Trenton McMillian. Good to see him back. Kyle Smith in 14th. John Marjabanks in 15th. Tyler Merritt in 16th. Caden Parks Miller in 17th. And another familiar face here, Corey Vervinkt in 18th. Aaron Smith in 19th. And in 20th, Tyler Justice. Joey.
And 21st is going to be TJ Yankee. And 22nd was that car that we were just riding on board with in qualifying. That's Jeff Perchatsky in the 29. Lynn Kinchlow always showing up to our RPE events. He's going to be rolling off in 23rd in the number 44. And then we got Peachy Campos. I know it says Eliza Campos, but we know him as Peachy Campos over here, rolling off in the 24th position. A good personal friend of mine up here in the Pacific Northwest, Stephen Baker, rolling off in 25th with John Engel in 26th. Rolly Filgaris, great to see Rolly out here. Jack, we'll have you talk about Rolly in just a little bit. He starts 27th. Brandon Pasola in 28th. And then Jose Campos. We've got another, call it Peachy 2.0 out here with his brother Jose Campos in 29th. And that is nearly 30 GTP cars rolling off the grid here at Sebring. We do have an entirely full pace lap, so we got plenty of time to kind of talk our way through and talk about some of these drivers that are in here. And I think the name that kind of sticks out as we see our race details, I'd mentioned 14 laps, 25 minutes. And we're going to turn around and do it all again for race number 2. The one big curveball, top 10 grid invert for race number 2. And that is based off of the finishing positions in the first race. But back to our drivers, Jack. I'd mentioned Rolly Filgaris. Now, I don't see him rolling out on the racetrack, no pun intended. He will be participating. I bet you he's going to be starting from pit lane. But Rolly has always been a big part of road racing under the Roush name, dating all the way back to, I believe, the mid-'80s or so.
Oh yeah, Rolly and his family, they're very good family friends of ours, as you know, Joey. They own Falgaris Ford in Puerto Rico, and Rolly has been racing with not just my road racing program, which he did with you there too, I believe, at the time that you were with us, Joey.
Yep.
But also with my dad's road racing teams in the '80s.
And it's so cool, right? Because typically within sim racing, we kind of have this newer generation, right? And Rolly is not of that newer generation. He's of the old school racers.
Oh yeah, but Rolly loves a good challenge, and he always sticks it out there, and puts himself in challenging situations. This is a tough crowd. These are not, Joey, as you know, we've really collected a very competitive group of racers here, and yeah, it's not to be taken lightly.
I see James Thurston on row number 2. You'd mentioned incredibly competitive group of racers, and James Thurston busted on the scene at Roush Performance Esports a couple years ago with a lot of our circle track stuff that we tend to do a little bit later in the year, celebrating RFK and whatnot. And he is just an absolute menace behind the wheel on the oval stuff. And then he joined the Mustang GT4 race late last year and did phenomenal. He did an off-road race and was up towards the front. He is that turquoise and blue car trying to get his tires warm right now. So James Thurston in that number 96, he's definitely going to be one to look out for as well. And I was going through the list of names. There's so many good ones out here. Aaron Smith, big shout out to Aaron. He is always a top-notch competitor as well. You probably recognize him from the oval world. And then the other one, Jack, that probably rings a bell with you because it goes all the way back to the original 2020 days of Roush Performance Esports. Trenton McMillian is out here. He's starting 13th today.
Absolutely. Yeah, Trenton's been fast, ever since I first saw him. And just like so many of these names here, it's great to see all these guys come back.
Well, as you can see by the wiggles on the back straightaway, they can tell the tires are cold. It looks like shade from this angle, but trust me, pointing the other way is all sun, and it is incredibly bright in the driver's eyes going into turn number 17. But the Ford Mustang safety car is about to relinquish the field over to Colin Arnold in the number 20. He looks towards Barney, and now we've got the green flag. We are racing for the sunset at Sebring on Roush Performance Esports. 39 GTP cars diving towards turn number 1. I think it was Alex Ellis really trying to make a name for himself, a move there into turn number 1. He comes out with the second place position, while Hector Colazo is actually going to be our leader going into turn number 3. I think Colin Arnold has slipped back to 4th, but we stay somewhat mistake-free for now. I have a feeling that might change, though, Jack, because now we're headed down to turn number 7. This is the time that the drivers have to jump on the brakes hard for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't even see a single instance of contact there. I couldn't believe that. At one point, I think I saw cars 6 wide.
And I believe it. At Sebring turn number 1, it gets incredibly wide, especially at the beginning half of the corner, and then it kind of has that massive funnel effect at the end. And I knew it was maybe a bit too soon to talk about no contact. There's
Oh
our
man.
first incident of the night, turn number 10. Oh my goodness. You had mentioned how tricky this place is. Every single corner at Sebring is a challenge. With cold tires, that turn number 10 brake zone, it can be very, very unnerving going into it the first couple laps.
Yeah, it's something about this track, the way it was constructed. When you look at a normal racing line, there's certain things that you would expect, with a perfectly flat track, but then add little topography, little bumps here and there, and it massively changes, where the fast way is around a corner. And it feels like at this track, every corner has little secrets, little things that you can't even really see, but you really just have to learn by doing it over and over again and learning from other people.
That's really the best phrasing to put it, right? It's always nice to maybe have a carrot dangling out there that knows the track inside and out, as you see Christian Youngwall really pushing the track limit out there in turn number 1. But I always felt that at Sebring, if you don't attack the brake zone, somebody else is, because guess what? It's bumpy going into the brake zone. If you don't attack the apex, somebody else is going to dive it towards the apex. And if you don't roll on the throttle as soon as you possibly can, you're not getting the run down these 4 long straightaways. I know here at Sebring we think kind of front straightaway, back straightaway, but this right here is a massively long, not straight straightaway. You're doing about 150 miles an hour or more 4 times per lap in these cars, what you're doing.
Absolutely. And again, with these cars, with all that power, all the downforce, everything, things happen very, very quickly.
Especially in these types of cars. Look at that speedometer on the lower left here. See, I was way off. I'm used to GT cars. I was out calling some Carrera Cup stuff and some Cayman GT4 stuff a couple weeks ago, and they were doing about 150, 155, and these GTPs really kind of put on a show. Let's leave it right here on this camera. Look at the sun going into the driver's eyes. They're going to have to fight this all evening long. 180, 185 miles an hour is what I saw before they jumped on the brakes, riding here with Jimmy Carroll, who's in 5th place, Jack. He's right behind Colin Arnold, who's right behind James Thurston. This is a fantastic 3-car fight for 3rd.
Yeah, it sure is. I almost find it hard to talk here. This is so intense.
Well, I was going to say, if we're going to be on board with either Jimmy or James, maybe next time we do that, we'll have to kind of have you give us a brief little talk around Sebring about some of the tricky areas on the racetrack as they come up to them. I see maybe actually that car that we were riding on board with. Really unfortunate. Jimmy Carroll just kind of had an internet connection issue, so he is no longer on the racetrack that I see. This looks like a potential pass, though. This is Jeff in the number 29 car. Getting around Corey Vervinkt. A little bit of a lockup out there. Keep it on the racetrack, Corey. And through he goes. And you know what?
It's very easy to overcharge these corners like that when you're racing against people. Not only do you have to attack it, but you have to be careful not to attack it too hard. And it's a very, very thin line.
And I have to be really nice to Corey Vervinkt, and that was not Corey running wide in turn number 7. I'm so sorry, Corey. Please keep me on the service. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to miscall you. Corey is running fantastic. Up in 12th, and that was a little bit of a spin. Jack, I'm going to take the blame for this one. I mentioned his name early in the show. That's a commentator's curse for Trenton McMillian.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter for me if you said my name or not. I'd be at risk of that.
I'm with you. I'm right on board with you. just maybe a little bit too happy on the throttle. And, you could probably talk a little bit of how technical turn 13 is. That's the tower turn where Trent just spun down there. We think Sebring is so bumpy, but I actually think turn 13 is one of the bumpiest sections on this entire racetrack.
Yeah, am I remembering this correctly? I'm trying to remember both. It's been a few years since I've been here, but also the exact turn number. I do believe that there's a little bit of a inner banking that you have to try
Correct.
to hit at the very inner part of that turn, and if you miss it, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, and it's got the massive bump right at apex as well. So not only do you have to be so critical with the car placement, like you were saying, right? You can't be half a car width wide right here. This is turn 13. And
Yeah.
if you're just a little bit wide, or if you're a little bit narrow, you're going to clobber that apex curve, which is going to massively struggle for power down. But you have to keep the commitment on the entry because it's that bending entry into it where you can carry a ton of speed. And what's so good about race cars? Trail braking, you can carry that speed into the corner.
It looks like he's trying to break the draft there.
I think that's exactly what Hector was doing. So this is Hector Colazzo here in the number 2 car. He started, let's see here, second place today on the front row. Was just able to get away on that green flag, overtake Colin Arnold there in turn number 1. It was Alex Ellis who really forced the issue up the inside on turn number 1, lap number 1. I think it was kind of putting him 3 wide, and that forced Colin just to be maybe a little bit tentative, and I don't blame him. I'm the one that's sending out all the emails. I'm the one that's talking to these drivers that says, hey, you guys, you know what? On lap number 1, lap number 2, lap number 3, it's going to be cold tires. It's okay to hit the brakes a little bit early, and I have a feeling that if one driver kind of takes that message, some of the other drivers, Jack, they're more like sharks in the pool. They see that, they smell blood, and they're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
Not sure who this was. Oh, no. Okay, commentators curse again. This is Corey V. And I believe this might have been Sam. Oh, no. It was just Corey running out wide. And then turn number 5, once again, Jack, a really, call it a technical turn on this racetrack where the entry seems to last forever, right? It always seems like you're always turning in at turn number 5, and then eventually you get to the apex, and it really narrows up on the exit.
Yeah, definitely. And, so many of these sequences of turns here are, just that. There's sequences that are all tied together. And if you lose your rhythm in, one of the early turns, you've screwed up the entire sequence.
You get put on the back foot, don't you? And whenever you're behind on corners, it almost seems like you can never catch up, right?
Yep. And a key part of that too is knowing which parts of that sequence to throw away and which ones to maximize your exit.
We're going to see what kind of racecraft Colin Arnold has here. The field has spread out just a little bit as we're approaching kind of 15 minutes left in this one. Our lead battle is about 1.6 seconds separate, and then Alex to James back here is about 3 seconds. You can kind of see him right up the road, but Colin is right on the gearbox here of this number 96. Both of these cars qualified in the top 4. Of course, we were talking about Colin, our pole sitter. So, Jack, if you're following in the tire tracks here, it can be difficult, right? And especially when another driver is dang near equal on pace. What do you look for in terms of being aggressive? Do you play the mind game? Do you just purely try to apply the pressure? How would you go about this?
It depends on who you're racing. Some people will be susceptible. If you're in the back, you will, I would poke around, try to be places where they're not expecting, turn on my lights, try to distract them, wear them out mentally. But some people, are solid and won't succumb to that. So you just have to be completely on it and hope you find an opening and hope that maybe make a mistake or you can take advantage somewhere. And if that doesn't work, you got to see where they're faster, where they're slower, and try to get faster in the places that you're weak and try to take advantages of the areas that you're strong.
I think that's exactly how I would approach it too. And I maybe mind games isn't the right way to phrase it. How you were saying, kind of poke and prod around, maybe show the nose going into turn number three, even if you're not close enough, right? Because sometimes it's just about trying to take the eyes of your competitor off of their brake marker or maybe off of their apex and put it in that rear view mirror on you. And that might just induce a little bit of a mistake, that little bit of a crack in the door where they get behind on those sets of corners and you can start to take advantage more.
Absolutely. I think just as important as the flip side, for the person in front, um, how does that person get the edge mentally and be solid, be precise, not be shaken. Um, I've had races where I've had very strong drivers behind me and um, had a good run and they didn't get to me and I just stayed ahead even though I probably, might have had a car that was at a disadvantage at that course. You know, you hope you don't get overwhelmed, get flustered. That's a very common thing for drivers.
And I think maybe the comedic way to think about this, the pressure, right? If you have somebody in the rear view mirror, it's almost like being a student and you've been handed the exam and you're taking your test, and all of a sudden, maybe one of your classmates or the teachers looking over your shoulder, hey, are you doing that right? Are you sure about that? And it can just be a little bit more difficult to perform under those situations. We jumped back here to this battle for what is, call it 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th on the racetrack. It's led up by Corey Vervinkt in that number 12 car. He's got a little bit of a damaged car behind him. I think he just went a little bit wide, and Edwin Onofre just tapped the wall there in turn number 17 that lap. So what was a pretty good gaggle, starting to fizzle it out just a little, and I say that, and I think that is David Schmidt, Jeff Perchatsky back here as well. Who else is in this group? And I think Jimmy Carroll is actually that green car, the tail end of it, the caboose. So Jimmy's not actually on the same lap as all these cars in front of him. But one great thing about virtual racing, Jack, is that sometimes, unfortunately, the internet goes out, but looks like Jimmy got it all booted back up, and he's back out here on the playground having fun with his buddies.
Absolutely.
That's Edwin running wide. So Edwin's in a little bit of a pickle here. As you can see, he's lacking a little bit of front-end downforce.
So
I think
it
that's
does
the
feel like,
polite way to put it.
yeah, if in real life that would be a huge disadvantage. Given the models here, I don't know if this is accurate or not. It almost seems like it's maybe not playing as big of a factor as the real world, but I'm not sure. I can't verify that.
Yes, and so he is struggling massively, right? But you're right. In the real world, this would be a much larger issue than what it is here. You'd have cables dangling. You'd have a lot more body work and stuff that you'd have to be worried about versus just having the clip completely removed. Now, last time through this section of the racetrack, Edwin couldn't get the car stopped in turn number 17. Then he couldn't get it turned at the end of turn number 17, and he banged the wall. But I think that Edwin has plenty of oval experience. It has been Darlington week this past week, and maybe he's just putting a stripe on the wall at Sebring. Uh-oh. We have a race for second place on our hands with less than 10 minutes remaining. Alex Ellis is actually going to relinquish second and third. This is what happened. Oh, maybe just trying to put the power down. Had a little bit of a wiggle there in turn number 5. And then, honestly, I'm struggling to see what happened here. I wonder if he got maybe a little bit of a slowdown penalty and had to give some time up. I don't know where you could get a slowdown on Sebring. Maybe in this section of the racetrack you can. And Jack, I know you're not 100% familiar with it, and I'll explain it to everybody. So iRacing, we don't have, call it safety workers out at the corners watching everything or race control. We kind of have our virtual stuff. So if a car or a driver cuts the track too aggressively on the apex side of things, they say, you know what, that's a cut course penalty, and they'll give you a live time penalty that pops up on your screen that says, hey, you got to give back 1 second or 1.8 seconds or whatever that calculation came out to be. And I'm going to guess that's what happened to Alex, because he just kind of pulled over and let those other cars by. Is that what you saw as well, Jack?
That would be my guess, and I am unfortunately familiar with that penalty.
Oh no, and Colin Arnold just went around. This was our pole sitter. Oh, so unfortunate there for Colin. He was finally up into what was second place. Let's take a look at the replay here. This is going to be turn number 5. Oh, man, it's tricky. We talk about how fast Sebring is and how fast the straightaways are. Well, Jack, turn number 5 is not a fast corner, right? It's one of the slow mechanical grip corners. And putting 700 horsepower down to the ground can be tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to joke and say that maybe Colin was trying to take advantage of the inverse for the second race, but I'm sure that's not the case.
You know what? I'll play that along with you, but the only problem with that is that he fell from second to sixth. And with his lap times, I think he's going to be back up to 5th here relatively soon. This is actually him on track live that we're watching. And he's actually caught up to the back of Charles Hosey back here in the number 16 car, chasing the BMW down the back straightaway here. And I was wondering, Mr. Eddie Smith behind the scenes is our producer. Let's go ahead on board here with Colin Arnold. I think that he's been pretty stable with us. And just kind of listen to this lap here around Sebring. Well, I hope you guys liked a little bit of the flavors that we've got here in GTP, right? This is side by side now between, this is Colin trying to get by Charles, and Charles is going to hang tough on the inside. A little bit of an over-under here from the number 20 car. Kind of got choked up in the middle of the corner, has to kind of regather it. And Jack, I think he's probably going to aim towards turn number 7, another big break zone.
Yeah, this little series of turns here, I could see how that would be very hard to execute a pass with someone pretty close to your speed. Man, a lot of these are not easy.
And
And
props to Charles. I mean, he's putting the car in the perfect defensive position, right? He's not squeezing Colin on exits. He's just putting the car right where he needs to. And now down the inside goes Colin Arnold in that black number 20. Finally grabs away that fifth place position. So, Jackie, your idea about the grid invert is kind of null and void now because if he finishes in fifth, he starts in fifth.
yep. Yeah, and what a great battle that was. The guys had a ton of respect. It's really like watching chess as, they head into each turn. Colin was you know, trying to wear out uh, Jose or the 16 car. And, it's really well executed on both sides.
It was patience, right? Obviously, Colin probably a little bit frustrated with himself after that little bit of a self spin that we saw earlier in the race. And it's easy to charge in too deep when you don't need to, as this continues to be a fantastic race back here. Edwin in the number 99, he's the car with the missing front end. And I think he's going to get my Dory award of just keep swimming, right? Just keep doing laps out there. And I think that he's very much looking forward to race number 2, where he is going to have a completely fixed up car. And it's a totally different feeling when you go from a broken car to a fixed up car. And he is going to be a much, much happier camper out there. I believe this is Sam Serino back here, moving up into 9th place. And, we haven't given Sam a whole lot of love on here, Jack, because I think he kind of got muscled out of the way maybe early on in the race, and has just really been gaining back that ground. He started 8th. He's currently 9th, but he's actually one of the faster cars on the racetrack, a 148.5 that last time. You compare that to everybody else in the field, and that puts him inside the top 5, at least in terms of the competitive lap times.
Absolutely. And, this invert is going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out, specifically with him. Because right now he'll be starting in second.
That's a great point. And sometimes it's just that little bit of track position that you need. And I think to kind of expand on that point, Jack, these cars kind of feed into that point too, right? If you have the clean air, everybody else behind you has to suffer with the dirty air. So let's say if you maybe don't have the outright pace, maybe it's just the clean air that you need.
Yep. Or, will the draft be in effect on the straightaways too? There's a couple ways that it can go.
You blink a couple times, and one person that doesn't have to worry about the draft on the straightaways is this guy right here, Hector Collazo. He is now 11.5 seconds out front. I mean, talk about putting on a show. The last lap, a 147.0. His fastest lap, a 146.6. Extreme consistency. The next fastest car on the racetrack is Alex Ellis, who's actually putting up a decent fight for what is second place position on the racetrack. And our leader, unfortunately, is going to have to deal with a couple of lapped cars. Going to get by Stephen Baker. Stephen always playing respectful out there, and I believe this is Jose Campos going to try to stay out of the way here. Driver's left stays on the racing line. That's a great thing to do. Stay predictable out there. The faster cars will make their way through. Well, Jack, he's already celebrating. He realizes he's got 12 seconds on everybody else.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be flashing my lights like that before the finish line, but it does look pretty certain.
Well, all he's got to do now is not have the internet blink out on him, and he will be our race 1 winner, the number 2 car of Hector Collazo. And now Alex Ellis going to put in a dive on James Thurston in turn number 17. And James doesn't move 1 inch, shuts the door. He's going to claim second. Alex is going to be our final podium finisher here in race number 1. Christian Youngwall going to finish 4th, with Colin Arnold coming home in 5th. I believe this is a back straightaway battle, and this is incredibly important because this is the battle for pole position. Caden Parks Miller is trying to take it away while it's Jake Van Hees. He's going to run wide. I think it's going to be the number 11 car with the over-under on turn number 17. That is 10th place to Jake Van Hees. No, I'm sorry, to Caden Parks Miller. My live timing and scoring swapped the names around there. So Caden is going to be your pole sitter on race number 2 with that grid invert out here. Woo. Well, checkered flag on the first one here. Yeah, I was going to ask, because we've got a little bit of a 5-minute warm-up here in between race number 1 and race number 2. What were your thoughts on that one, man?
That was pretty wild. Congratulations to Hector for that win of race 1, and let's see how this one turns out. I think it's going to be pretty exciting again.
It was awesome to watch all these cars. Here is the finishing results. Hector Collazo in first in that number 2 car, 15, nearly 16 seconds ahead of James Thurston after he shut the door on Alex Ellis in turn number 17 on that final lap. Then Christian Youngwall is going to finish in 4th, Colin Arnold in 5th, Charles Hosey in 6th, Kyle Smith in 7th, Sean Fritz in 8th, Sam Sereno in 9th, and Caden Parks Miller is going to be your pole sitter in race number 2. Jake Van Hees in 11th with TJ Yankee back here in 12th. Edwin Onofre is going to be looking for a clean car, right? He's going to be looking to have a complete car and probably be much faster than what he was here in the first race. Tyler Merritt finishing in 14th with Brendan Pasola in 15th. Jeff Perchatsky 16th. Jimmy Carroll with a little bit of an internet blip as the first car to finish 1 lap down. Trent McMillan, awesome job getting back out there on the racetrack after that spin, finishing in 18th. Tyler Justice back here in 19th. Corey Vervinkt in 20th. And then the last handful out here, it was David Schmidt. Our session just clicked over here, so those were the cars that had a little bit more of an issue out there on the racetrack. And right now what we've got is a 5-minute warm-up session, and then we're going to be going back to race number 2. But Jack, what do you think about 2026? Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about esports and kind of the vision that we're having with following the iRacing special events calendar here with Q1 in Sebring? And I believe we're looking more towards the Watkins Glen timeframe in June, when IMSA goes there for the 6-hour. I think we're looking to potentially put a GT race together for something like that. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, Joey, we got to get our pencils out and finalize that plan, as you know, but yeah, that is what we're thinking.
And just trying to stick with the theme of, the iRacing special events. They've got the 12-hour going on this weekend for the virtual Sebring event. And they have several events. Call it, 2 or 3 or more events per month on the iRacing special events calendar, such as the Daytona 24, the Sebring 12-hour, the Bathurst Endurance Race, all these great events from around the globe. And here at Roush Performance Esports in 2026, we're going to piggyback on a little bit of the popularity of some of the stuff. Sebring, these GTP cars, it's got so much practice time here this month, we might as well let everybody come out and have a little bit of a different format. I think everybody's been used to sharing the car with 2 or 3 other drivers to get ready for the 12-hour event and make sure that they're working on their setups and turning those solid, consistent laps over the course of an entire stint or 2 stints or 3 stints. But Jack, as a driver, right? Endurance racing versus sprint racing, it's 2 totally different mindsets, and it's nice to have the change up every once in a while after you've doing practice on one over and over and over and over.
It really is 2 different worlds, as you know, Joey. With sprint racing, you want to go out there and immediately, start gunfighting. Not literally, but, you're trying to fight for position. You have very limited time. Where an endurance race, you're out there for multiple hours, multiple drivers, and you need to survive. It really proves the point of to finish first, you must first finish.
I know that is one of your father's favorite sayings. And, when was the first time you heard him say that?
Uh, about the time I was born, I think.
So that is literally seared into your brain.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Not ingrained, but seared. But I mean, it's perfect advice, right? And I'm not sure if everybody out there watching watched the Darlington race of NASCAR this past weekend, but I believe it was Ryan Blaney afterwards said with the package that they had brought there. On restarts, he was taking it easy or maybe not driving it as hard in the first couple laps, and he was saying, other drivers were. And you know what? I'll see you in 20 laps. I'll see you in 25 minutes. And sure enough, it came back to him. And sometimes that's the difference in the mindset, right? Is that some drivers, they get so amped up and jazzed up. They try to win it in the first corner when sometimes you got to look at the big landscape. I call it the Bob Ross landscape. Don't just look at turn number one. Look at the entire picture of the race.
That's a really good point, Joey. Sometimes it is very common, people hop in race cars and, it gets your adrenaline going. It can very easily turn your mind off as part of that. And, just like I know you've seen, Joey, we've seen races where people get out there and they don't, I don't want to be mean, but they aren't using their complete mind. They get way too angry, upset, aggressive.
They're stuck in the car, right? In the helmet.
Yeah. Yep. And then, as a driver, if you see this, there are times when you need a battle, the last few laps of the race, but in a big battle of 4 or 5 different cars on the first lap, you might want to think about how to get around that without getting caught in the wreck that's about to happen.
And that's part of the awareness, right? As a driver. And sometimes you really only get that from being in those specific situations out there. Um, yeah, seat time is everything. Endurance racing, a totally different game than what sprint racing is. And something we're gearing up for right now is race number two, where you're getting all of the cars out there on the racetrack. And it's actually maybe a little bit darker than what I thought it was going to be. I think in-sim sunset time is about 7:40, and I'm showing about 7:35 right now. So it looks like the headlights are already on, and this will be a new challenge for the drivers. We were in the afternoon call, at the late stages of the afternoon in practice and in qualifying. And then in race number one, we really saw that sun getting low on the horizon. Then here in race number two, it has officially set. So, Jack, maybe let's talk about the car difference since we've got our entire pace lap here. Now, from your experience, when you have a car in the heat of the day, when it's 85 degrees in the middle of Florida, that racetrack and the grip level is relatively slippery, but then when things start to cool off, it always seems like the car setup starts to come back around to the driver.
Oh, it does. That's part of the trick, right? You need to, um, if you're doing the tune yourself, you want it to be the best for the long term, to be the best at the end of the race relative to the other cars. And man, just, so everyone understands, in case you're not already familiar, what we're seeing here is a massive transformation of the racetrack. That going from light to dark, very, very big difference in how the cars behave on this track.
And it's not just the grip level that picks up, it's the speeds all around. So when you have more grip, guess what? You get to drive out of the corner faster, meaning you get to put the throttle down sooner on the exit. And what does that mean? It translates into a faster top speed. So not only are you going through the apexes of the corners faster than before, but you're leaving the corner faster than what you were before, which means you're getting to the top speed even faster than what you were before. So overall, it is not just one facet of the racetrack that starts to get faster when the sun goes down. It is literally everywhere. Now, let's talk about the more difficult part of it. The car gets faster, the racetrack gets faster. However, what about your vision? All of your visual cues start to change. Everything that you're used to seeing in the sunlight, well, now it looks different coming up to it. The brake markers shine a little bit different. You might have to physically look over on the left side of the racetrack to spot them versus just naturally coming up in your eyesight. And I think, Jack, that's probably where the biggest discrepancy of performance happens with the drivers, is just the visual aspect of it all.
Absolutely. Part of that is, age. As we get older, your night vision will not be as good, in general. But, driving at night is pretty discombobulating if you're not used to it. Look at this track. I don't believe there's any or hardly any lights on the track.
That's another point that I was going to mention is lots of times, even when we do have, call it endurance racing into the night, the entire track is not lit up, right? It's not a stadium facility like we see at NASCAR events or Roval type speedways like Daytona or Miami, where we can literally light the entire facility. Here, it's pretty much down to the headlights. They do have a couple stationary lights that kind of help, especially on the front straightaway of all places. But I mean, talk about a visual difference from what we saw 20 minutes ago, starting race number 1 to starting race number 2. And just while we're on the back straightaway here real fast, I'm going to mention our top 10. The rest of the order stays the same, but it is Caden Parks Miller going to be your pole sitter. Sam Serino starting in second place, Sean Fritz in third, Kyle Smith in fourth, Charles Hosey in fifth, Colin Arnold in sixth, Christian Youngwall in seventh, Alex Ellis in eighth, James Thurston in ninth, and Hector Colazo back there in the 10th. That completes our top 10 grid invert, but it is time to go racing one more time here for the sunset at Sebring. No jumped starts allowed. Wait for the green flag. And oh, the right lane struggles to get going just a little bit. Alex Ellis had a monster start way back there from 8th place. He's already looking up towards 2nd place. How he managed to do that, I don't know. But we have got issues in turn number 1. I believe it was Sam Serino involved slightly and some cars off on the exit. Not surprised to see that one when we get them all bottled up into turn number 1 like that. But the big winner right now is Alex Ellis out front. He's already on the back of Caden Parks Miller. I mean, holy smokes, Jack. I told him not to jump the start. I might have to go back and look at this one.
Yeah, this was not nearly as clean of a start as the last race. I think it may be in large part due to what we just talked about. It's a little harder to adjust with only your headlights. You can't really string your complete path like you can when there's sufficient light to see beyond just your headlights.
And Alex just overtook for the lead in turn number 10. New leader, the number 7 car. Caden is going to try to keep up now. Looks like that was a car off the racetrack. I believe that might have been Sean Fritz there in the 3rd place. Hector Colazo, winner of race number 1, has already moved his way up into 3rd, but the problem that Hector has right now, he's got about 3.5 seconds to catch up to this group right here, this pair. Jack, watch the left side. Okay, so we're riding on board with Alex. I mean, I can't call it a jumped start. He was closing that gap. Your opinion?
I would agree.
I mean, it's so tough here. So watch the left side. And, it's not like he causes issues there. I think if race control was sitting here looking at it all, they might be a little bit more strict. But the thing is that he had left room. he didn't cause an accordion effect, and we do not have a rule that says that you have to stay in line, in column, before the start-finish line. So I don't see anywhere that I can give a stern talking to Alex, other than maybe in person when he's out there coaching at some of the Sprint Challenge and SRO events that I'll see him at.
Right.
I'll
Yeah, I
have to
think it
pull him
was
aside.
it wasn't just the two cars in front of him, especially not the one directly, but the one in front of him was seemed to be off pace for some reason. And yeah, to make everyone have to stop behind that car that was not at pace, uh, that's kind of a tough argument.
And here's the thing that everybody doesn't know that's watching is that I put out a driver's meeting email that says, hey, you know what? You cannot jump the start. And what I mean by that is nobody can jump the start. If you're in 29th, if you're in 15th, if you're in 7th, if you're the leader, you are not allowed to go until you physically see the green flag displayed. And here's kind of where the cheeky part comes in, Jack, because we're all competitors, right? And we're always looking to try to find the biggest and best advantage. Well, Barney throws the green flag at the same place every time,
Woo!
and I believe that might have been James Thurston trying to force it 3 wide and getting the bad end of the stick on that one. Jack, I think you're going to have to talk us through this replay. James all the way on the outside of this one.
It's a little hard to speculate.
We're going to
I'm
have to
thinking
queue it
maybe
up again.
probably had some tire lock up in the rear. Probably got a little too deep.
Definitely
Did he
contact
get
from the
clipped?
middle car.
There you go.
And so that's a tough one. Sebring, turn number 17, you want to be on the inside of the racetrack, right? I feel like the outside of the racetrack there is going to be I don't want to call it a losing battle. It was in this case, but it is going to be a strong challenge to try to stick it around the outside.
Yeah, and there can be, I don't know that I've been on that specific part of the track, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are some bumps there too, which will send you sailing in addition to that contact.
In addition to the 3 wide.
Yeah.
Right? There was a lot of factors there that kind of added up to, unfortunately, James Thurston falling down to what is 14th place at the moment. He'll try to regather everything. He's still got just under 20 minutes out here to finish out race number 2 as we're riding on board the number 2 car. This is Hector. He won race number 1. And Jack, I think that he is lining up Hayden Parks Miller right now for 2nd place.
Yeah, it looks like he's ready to attack here pretty quick.
Maybe get a little bit of an over-under. You see him right on the back wing now. Maybe half a car width. Caden's going to go maybe show defensive just a little bit. Take the wide arc into turn number 1. Left plenty of room at apex for his competitor. And now the number 2 car, late braking move down into turn number 3. Clears the number 11. Move Galazzo up into 2nd. And now he's got his challenge now really ahead of him. 4.5 seconds to go try to hunt down Alex Ellis, our leader. That's the lead that he's got. I do want to give a shout out to that 3rd place car of Caden Parks Miller. I'll have to verify it, but I believe he's one of our younger real world drivers out there. I believe he was racing a Formula Ford, showing that off in the Discord channel. So always great to see that not only the older generation that we were talking about with Rolly and Peachy and Jose, but also this newer generation of club racers that are out there racing their stuff on a given weekend, but also honing their craft, call it in their basement. And yes, I just went back and looked. It is Caden, and this is Colin Arnold making a pass here. So move Colin up to 7th. He goes past Kyle Smith there. Now the next car that Colin has in front of him is going to be John Marshbanks. But Jack, I was actually able to go back and find a couple pictures of Caden Parks Miller's car. He does race a Formula V in SCCA. And you know what that's like, getting going and racing, especially on the grassroots level. The only thing that's different about a Formula V than a go-kart is just the size.
Yeah, I could see that, and you know, probably pretty. In some ways, there are similarities with these vehicles. Obviously, these are not open wheel, but kind of the characteristics, how quickly they can change direction, the sense of speed.
I'm going to jump around to a few of our competitor webcams that we've got here. This is Edwin. Now, remember, he was having some troubles in race number 1. I'm going to try to find where exactly he is on the racetrack right now. He is in the number 99. He is currently sitting in 10th place position. Now, Jack, are you familiar with the FAF Motorsports team? They were racing the Porsches, and now they race the Lamborghinis. I think they had a brief hiatus in another car, but they've got the plaid. They love the plaid livery. I think that might be what Edwin is going for with the background there.
Okay, nice.
I think that he's actually even got it on the livery of the car. Eddie, is there maybe a TV zoom angle on this thing, or a livery? And yeah, I can certainly see the plaid. Now, granted, it's a different manufacturer, but I think this is full plaid for Edwin. Who else we got here behind the scenes on our driver webcams? Looks like we got TJ Yankee here in the number 16 car. Great to see him out there. I'm sorry, he's driving the number 3 car in 15. Oh, and then this is always one of my favorites. Jack, I always try to point this one out. And Eddie, actually, if we could go full screen with the webcam, if possible, or picture in picture, just, on a more full screen, I want to show what Lynn Kinchlow is seeing out here. So this is from his point of view, his virtual reality. This is exactly what he sees right now. He has got tons of overlays. So he's got his gear, his throttle, his brake, his speed directly in front of him. He's got his relative box on the right side. On the left side box, those are the splits, the sectors right there. And then, Jack, up top, you see this green box, this kind of double green box that he's looking at right there? That's actually a driver radar. Call it like a rear view mirror without actually having to look in the rear view, right? It's got some identifications that when a car is there, it's essentially a radar system.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, this view is really immersive.
I always love having Lynn come and race here because of this. Not only is he a great competitor out there, and he really drives whatever facet of motorsports. It doesn't need to be road racing. Oh, I just saw a spin. Actually, they're coming up to it right here on the racetrack. We can stay right here with Kinch. And they are going by him right through it right there. I think it was James Thurston again getting into a couple little issues. But back to my long-winded point about Lynn Kinchlow. This is the replay of what I was talking about. So Thurston maybe just having another little issue of contact and calling it for the night. But the number 44 car always out here, always racing. Doesn't matter if it's road racing, if it's oval racing, if it's off-road stuff. I know that Lynn is always willing to come out here and have a fun time on the sim. And I think we just saw a position change. Jack, this was Christian Youngwall going up into third, passing Caden Parks Miller, who started as our pole sitter for race number 2.
Yeah, it's nice seeing this getting shaken up here. Not with running events like this. You never want to see it become a parade where things aren't mixed up anymore and people spread out. These guys aren't doing that. They're going for it. Another thing too, as these visuals are changing, it's getting darker. Again, I'm a little biased, but I think night racing is really cool to watch. It's exciting. It's also pretty wild. Look at the brakes. You know,
Hmm.
that little detail that iRacing put in this, what a cool thing. You can see see the brakes get so hot that they're glowing, which is very realistic. I do want to also point out that there's a illuminated palm tree in the infield, which is also very realistic for Sebring.
If you've never been to Sebring, it is a party, and maybe a party is not the best word to describe it. It's a rager. It is a an all weekend rager. As Colin Arnold just made the move on John Marshbanks, but maybe got a little bit slipped up on the exit of turn number 16. Through goes Marshbanks, and now an over under. The problem is that Colin is on the wrong side of the racetrack. You want to be on the left side going into turn number 1. John Marshbanks with a little bit more aggressive entry speed. However, another over under from Arnold. Now it puts him on the right side of the racetrack. Outbreaks his competitor going into turn number 3, and he is cleared up to 5th place. I think that tonight is a story of what if for Colin Arnold. Sean Fritz just went around in the background there in turn number 5, and um, Jack, Colin had an issue in turn or in race number 1. Had a little bit of an issue in race number 2, but he has stayed tough out there. He fought back to a 5th place finish earlier, and here he is in 5th again. Unfortunately, I think he's doomed to that position.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have a hard time making it much higher than that, given the spread right now. But man, what a great event for, or great showing for Colin here. You know, he showed a lot of speed. He had problems, but you know that's how racing goes.
And the car that he had just passed, I do want to give credit to as well. That's John Marshbanks. He's our biggest mover of the race so far. He started all the way back in 22nd position here. Has gained 16 spots up to 6th. So John is another one of these competitors that has found himself as a regular with our Roush Performance esports events. And it's pretty fun to watch this group grow. Now, we've been at it for a handful of years with RPE, Jack. And I'd mentioned, Rowley was always around, Trent McMillian was always around. Um, and then some of the more recent names, James Thurston, Aaron Smith is out here. But I also have to include Christian Youngwall. I got to include John Marshbank. Sean Fritz has been around since forever. Lynn Kinchlow is always a returning customer out here. I think I've seen Tyler Justice before as well. So um, there's been a lot of names that have come and gone throughout the years with the esports stuff. However, call it the group, the family here at RPE continues to grow and get bigger, and it's so great to see the names always come back for our events.
It sure is. Um, you know, it's really interesting too to watch how this has evolved since COVID. You know, during the lockdowns of COVID, you know, I've mentioned this many times. That's really where we got started with our esports. You know, we were trying to, you know, excite people, get them, you know, distracted from all the stress of that terrible time. But you know what? This is actually a very cool thing for us to be able to do with people to celebrate racing, to get them involved. It's not like, you know, we're out buying or, you know, these teams are buying GTP cars, which are, you know, extremely expensive. You know, it's a lot easier and more accessible to go out, build a nice PC, a sim rig, and get started on iRacing. Um, uh, you know, it's very cool to see this survive so long, well past that time of COVID, and we're actually still growing. Yeah, our field is 30 this time. We've had some record-breaking, you know, participant numbers. Um, uh, you know, just recently in December with the RFK event that we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Well, and I just kind of want to expand on all of that because I think here at RPE we have different types of events. Now, when we typically think of iRacing and special events, everybody wants to be top split, top split, top split, the best show, the absolute competitive of the most competitive. And we do have those types of series at RPE. We had it with our Pro Series when we had just the GTPs only. We had it with our World Tour 2, where we would go and tote around the fastest cars around the globally best racetracks around the world, right? And then, of course, the RFK Holiday Showdown at the end of the year every year, which you were just mentioning. We had almost 200 people sign up, and we had multiple splits. I think we had 3 or 4 different splits going on there. So I think when it comes to RPE, we have lots of different types of events, and not all of them are going to be the 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 I rating guys at the front. Sometimes it's this big mix of a field out here, and it's exactly like what you were just saying, is that it's getting everybody together at the racetrack and doing something that we all enjoy doing, and that's going racing, being competitive, right?
Absolutely.
Well,
One thing I
go
do
ahead,
want to
Jack.
mention. Oh no, this is a bit unscripted here, but as I think about where we got started and with our esports events, I believe it was our very first race at Road America. Do you remember that, Joey?
Yes, I do. Yep.
And unfortunately, since our last event in December, our RFK event, um, we lost a competitor or a participant that was with us at that first race, and that was Greg Biffle. As I'm sure everyone's aware, there's a, you know, we all witnessed the tragedy of losing Greg and his family. But man, it was really cool to have him there. He's not a sim racer, but he just threw himself out there, tried as hard as he could, and just had a lot of fun. And I think that's the way he approached a lot of stuff. But it's I do want to give a call out to him, and what a great competitor he was, and what a great part of our racing history.
It's been massively sad, right, to lose Greg Biffle in the last couple months. I think we've seen the outpouring of support of who the Biff was in that time, and sometimes we don't kind of get to see it until something tragic happens. And I want to focus more on the smiling aspect, and going back to that Road America, and who Greg Biffle is, right? Because it's always a joyous time talking about him. He was always comedic, and like you said, he was not a sim racer. So I spent a lot of time on the phone with him, just making sure he was always set up and ready to go. And, the funny part is, and Jack, hopefully you can laugh about this as well. He'd get, 3 or 4 laps into a practice run, and he would just get so frustrated. He would pull it over and call me and just start complaining about the car. And it should be doing this and it should be doing that, but it's doing this and doing that instead. And he's just got it parked on the side of the racetrack. Didn't even bring it into pit lane. Just has it parked out there. But that's some of the the comedy
Right.
that really Greg Biffle is. That, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to figure out what's going on. But man, it was so great to have him at those events. Yes. Well, with 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining, the lead has come down slightly. Alex is out in front by 2.7 seconds. The last lap time, a 146.7. You compare that to Hector behind him, a 146.6. Now, we kind of talked about this in race number 1, Jack. Maybe it's just a little bit of clean air. Alex was choked up behind several cars in race number 1. He got the monster start in race number 2, and ever since he's got the clean air and the clean windshield, he's been able to turn those competitive laps and keep our first race winner behind him.
Yeah, it sure has. You really have to wonder what's going on with these car. Well, like you said, this is a fixed setup, but that really doesn't, you know, that's not the full story of what's going on with these cars. Each driver will drive them differently, push them different levels, some harder than others. I I would suspect that these guys are feeling different things with each of their cars, not only because of the different manufacturers, but even within a single manufacturer.
And you, of all people, I mean, you've got so much time inside race cars, inside karts, driving cars on a performance environment. You know that if you've got a car that's maybe understeering a little bit, and you're really leaning on those front tires in the first 10 minutes, it can come back to bite you hard in the last, call it 15 minutes, versus you could have somebody who's got an identical car but took care of their front tires in the first 10 minutes and all of a sudden has a completely different car in the last 15 minutes. It can come down to the driver inputs as well.
Absolutely.
And it's all about that balance. Just that's what makes racing car drivers so good, is understanding what the car needs, right? A car can be fast. It looks like Colin Arnold is going to get another spot. So Colin, I thought he was doomed to fifth, has put his head down ever since the sun went down at Sebring, and he's going to get a podium position out of this. He's got one more lap to go around Sebring, and I just had a little bit of a nervous moment because I saw our P2 runner go to 0 miles an hour on my timing and scoring, and that usually indicates a crash, but it was just a little bit of an internet blip, and there's some of those brake rotors that are glowing out here out of the front end of that number 20. Jack, white flag is out. Last lap. Alex is already on it coming through turn number 5 here. Hector's still giving chase, but Alex was actually just a little bit faster, has grown it out to 3 seconds now.
Yeah, I think Alex, unless he makes some mistakes, I think he's got it here.
Brake rotors glowing down there. Now, in the fixed setup, the drivers can adjust that slightly. Now, they can't go fully forward or fully backwards like you can with an open setup, but I bet you these drivers, basically, they'll feel it out the first couple laps, make a couple little adjustments, but in the course of how long this race is, I don't think they'll be adjusting it too much. About 25 minutes is about the length of half a normal fuel stint out here. Alex Ellis probably glances in his mirror one last time here before entering into this turn 15-16 complex. I always think turn 16 is one of the trickiest corners at Sebring. It's got about a 1 foot change in elevation, and trust me, that is enough to throw the vehicle dynamics way off, especially with how slippery it is down there. But the number 7 car, after having some issues in race number 1, had a monster start in race number 2. Alex Ellis looks up. He sees Barney, a familiar sight for him. Checkered flag for the number 7 car.
Man, what a great run for Alex.
Hector Collazo going to finish in second. I think the best night definitely goes to Hector, winning the first race, coming home in second in race number 2. And Colin Arnold is just now crossing the finish line in what is going to be 3rd place. And big time shout out to, I think that was
quite that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
as long as it's not a real car.
I'm so happy that you can laugh at that sort of stuff. You know, with the sim, a lot of people are dead set and serious, even on the broadcasting side. But I think one of the most fun parts about sim racing is that it's not real racing. Going back to the pit lane, sure, you can junk it if you don't feel like driving it back like Alex Ellis. But what we are going to do is take a look at our official results as they really kind of come to a close out here. Is the number 7 car. I think we're waiting on a few more, but Alex is going to be your winner. Hector finishing in second with Colin in third. Caden Parks Miller, big time shout out to this guy, right? He just showed up to the RPE events. Is racing Formula V in the real world, getting his grassroots stuff going, and I thought he performed terrifically out here with a 4th place finish. Christian Youngwall in 5th with Edwin Onifrey. Nice recovery after missing the entire front end of the car in race number 1 to finish in 6th. Jimmy Carroll, another comeback drive as well. Remember, he had that little bit of an issue, but race number 2 seemed to go a little bit smoother after at least the first turn. 7th for him. Kyle Smith in 8th. John Marshbanks in 9th. Slipped down the order just a little bit there late in the race. Sean Fritz, another one of our regulars. Great to see Sean out here in 10th. And then comes everybody else. Tyler Justice in 11th, Lynn Kinchlow in 12th, TJ Yankee in 13th, Jeff Prochatsky in 14th. And then everybody else on the list here had troubles. You see them multiple laps down. So we'll just go ahead, scan through them real fast and get their names up here before moving on to our final section of the night. Jack, that is actually going to be our post race interviews that we're going to be having here. I think we've actually already got our first interview lined up for us. Alex, congratulations on winning race number two.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. It was tough. Hector was fast. It was like that was 14 Q laps in a row.
And so before we get to that, we looked at your start a couple times. Now, do you know where Barney throws this green flag, Alex?
Oh,
All I can say is the green displayed on my screen before I went, and I was a little bit surprised by the jump as well. But I don't know if you guys have seen the video of Max Verstappen when he came through from the back of the field at Sebring. I think his start was a little bit worse, so I'm okay with mine.
Jack, the floor is yours. You got anything for Alex?
congratulations, Alex. That was a great run.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, Alex, while we've got you here, is there anything that you want to put out for anybody watching? I know you do a bunch of sim race coaching as well as real world coaching and real world professional racing. Really, the microphone is yours right now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Well, no, thank you guys for putting this together. It's awesome to have a platform to be able to jump in a competitive but not so serious environment, right? Like the iRacing officials where people are practicing 30, 40 hours for it. It's tough to keep up. So this is a great environment to have fun, but race race really competitively still. So yeah, really pleased with tonight. Um, Got to shout out Satellite Racing, and then obviously my real world guys, VPX Motorsport. Um, yeah, they're killing it right now in Michelin Pilot Challenge, and then yeah, I've got lots of coaching on the go. I'm coaching 6 real world drivers this year, so it's busy, busy. We had last weekend already with Porsche Carrera Cup North America, so I'm coaching a driver there, and it was great. They opened up the season at Sebring, and he was able to get pole and double win. So it seems that either the coaching is working or I'm just getting really lucky with clients. So yeah, hoping for more of that this year.
Well, as always, Alex, awesome to have you here with the Roush Performance Esports stuff. And we look forward to watching you race in the real world and seeing you come back here and race on the channel as well.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Well, that
Alex.
that was Alex Ellis, winner of race number two. And now we have got Hector Colazzo, winner of race number one, and then finishing second place in race number two. Now I'm going through my info sheet over here. It says you like Nutella is something that you would like us to know. Can you expand on that maybe?
Yeah, I just think Nutella is honestly just easily top 3 of one of the greatest snacks, in my opinion, that you could ever ask, and if you got a problem with it, you can fight me about it, so, yeah, I just love Nutella that much, man.
I feel the same way about peanut butter.
Peanut butter's not that bad also, I'll put it top 5 to be honest, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness. Well, Hector, what did you think about coming out and competing with RPE for the first time?
Yeah, it was honestly an amazing experience to be able to race against these guys, especially Alex Ellis. Congrats to him on that feature when I was just pushing the crap out of that car. I just had no rear grip at that end. So that gap definitely really saved him there. It felt like if I had a little closer there, I felt like we could have a little good battle. But yeah, just congrats to him. And yeah, race overall, that first heat just got a great restart on the outside, and just took the lead and just cruised on by, which thankfully Alex got a little held up with that traffic. I know it sucks to really talk bad about a incident, but honestly, I'm sorry. I just got to say that I'm thankful for that lap car that he didn't mess up with me, but he messed with Alex a little bit because Alex was he was super fast in that heat one, and yeah, happy with the win. Wish I had a better opportunity on that feature. Really want to go back to back on that, but overall, just happy with the first and second finish.
I don't think that Alex is going to hold anything against you. He knows how racing goes. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't, and that's just how it is. But before we let you go, Jack, I wanted to bring you in here. Did you have anything that you wanted to say to Hector?
No, just great job, Hector. It was fun watching you race, and thanks for being part of it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the opportunity to let me race this.
And
Awesome.
before we let you go, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
I want to shout out to my team, RGR, also being Team Endurance. Really fun guys. Really gave me a lot of opportunities in my very young sim racing career. So thankful for those guys. Thankful for some friends that I was in VC with. Really letting me focus and giving me some pep talk before that future race to really send it. So shout out to those guys, and obviously thankful for you guys to really be hosting these events. Like Alex said, it's not a very it's competitive, but it's not to the point where you got to really be on top game. You can really just have fun with some of these guys. So really thankful for you guys streaming this and giving me a platform to put my name out there and hopefully gain some more attention.
I'm happy that everybody is finally getting the vibe here at RPE, and I'm happy that you understand it. Alex mentioned it as well, so always make sure to come back and race with us in the future at more Roush Performance esports events.
100%, definitely will.
All right. Well, that was Hector Colazo, winner of race number one and second place in race number two. And Jack, since he kind of segued us into it, I really enjoyed that both of the drivers were able to kind of highlight something that we talked about it, and that's just kind of what we do here at RPE. Yes, we want to go win, but it's all about getting the group together and having a great night of racing on the sim.
It sure is. And on that note, I have a little surprise piece of news. So I've been without a sim for a while now. It's been in JP's room, my son, who go karts. I have another son that I want to give a call out to, Chevin, and he's my youngest, but he is a computer wizard, and he's built a new sim rig. And also, I'm getting some equipment through the Sim Racing Warehouse very soon, simracingwh.com, with Joe Bricky. If you guys are looking for sim equipment, I definitely recommend going to the Sim Racing Warehouse. Again, simracingwh.com. They have the best stuff on there, and yeah, I'm gonna be spending some more time in the sim, and I'm really looking forward to not only commentating these events but also participating again very soon.
I know that JP is looking to get in the sim, and now with Chevin building the computers, I'm sure he's not too far after that as well. I'm sure there's going to be more sims than maybe bedrooms in the Roush
Yeah.
household here soon
Yep.
enough. Well, that's super exciting news. I can't wait, and I'm sure that everybody out there will be anxious to race against you out there virtually as well. And I think that's going to kind of call it for tonight's activities here on the RPE channel. Thanks to Roush Performance and all of their support. This wouldn't be possible without the team behind the scenes, and that really includes you, Mr. Jack Roush Jr., Josh Massib, JP Roush, and also Eddie Smith, and soon to be Chevin Roush as well with that PC build. Thank you for joining us tonight, and remember, Roush Performance Esports will have future events in 2026, so make sure to stick around for even more great racing. Until next time, I'll see you at the checkered flag.